Friend, take a breath with me for a moment. Nothing fancy. Just let your shoulders drop a little, unclench your jaw, and settle in. Today, I want to talk about something that doesn't get named very often, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. I want to talk about what devoured your sovereign principles, not your boundaries, something deeper than that. Hello, and welcome to Torches, Yoga, and Mindfulness. I'm Lauren, and I'll be your coach. If you're curious about mindfulness, healing, and practical habits that actually work, you're in the right place. Here we focus on simple but powerful practices grounded in ancient wisdom and modern science to care for both your mind and body. So go ahead, hit that like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you have ever felt exhausted from having to constantly defend your boundaries, if you have ever wondered why you keep explaining yourself to people who already showed you who they are, or why you know what you deserve, but you still find yourself negotiating with harm. In many of my videos, we talk about boundaries a lot. They are important, they matter, but boundaries are often reactive. They show up after something has hurt us, and with boundaries comes the responsibility to enforce them, and it can feel like constant maintenance. Sovereign principles are different. They're not like some rules that you announce, but more like internal laws we live by. They don't require convincing, correcting, or confrontation. They quietly shape how we move, what we allow, and how much access someone has to us. Sovereign principles don't say this person needs to change X, Y, or Z, but instead, they're more like a self check in, like, is this aligned with who I am? At the beginning of this, I asked what it was that devoured your sovereign principles. Maybe you never even had a chance to develop them. Either way, most of us don't have or lost them not because of weakness, but we lost them because survival demanded it. We had to find flexibility in the moment to survive it just so that we could fight another day. At some point, belonging felt safer than truth. Keeping the peace felt safer than self-respect. Explaining ourselves felt safer than being misunderstood. So our sovereignty didn't disappear, it just went quiet for a bit. One of my own sovereign principles is that I do not accept harmful or hurtful behavior from others or from myself. And that sounds pretty reasonable and simple, but living it comes with layers. This principle isn't about being perfect. Maybe someone makes an offhanded comment because they just aren't really aware of the full meaning or timing of their words. And I can't say that every time I look in the mirror, I start fawning with self-love. Sometimes there's harsh critique, and that's okay. It's not about getting it right every time. It's about how I respond when the harm shows up, whether it's coming from someone else or abandoning myself. In my experience, there will be times when we notice the harm and we don't act. Maybe we'll try to rationalize why it happened or why it's okay that it did. There will be times where we will stay longer than we need to, or times where we give someone yet another chance when our body already knows the truth. The sovereign part is we don't punish ourselves for that part. There is no spiral into shame or telling myself I should have known better. I don't turn the lesson into a life sentence. I offer grace. Sometimes a lesson just takes a little bit longer to land, and that's no big deal. That's not weakness, that's maturity. That's discernment and wisdom. Living by sovereign principles also means something else that can kind of feel uncomfortable at first. It means I recognize people for who they actually are, not who I hope they will become or who they may have been when we first met, not who they are when things are easy. I listen to actions, not words or promises. I've learned that patterns speak louder than apologies do, and consistency speaks louder than chemistry ever could. Seeing someone in a grounded, honest way means I stop relating to them in a sense of who they could be. I stop filling in the gaps for them or translating their behavior to intention. Instead, I am able to give them space to let them show me just who they are. And that's not just one instance, one encounter, it's an overtime type of thing. Sovereignty teaches us to trust patterns and follow through. Someone can say all the right things, but their actions maybe keep leading us to the same hurt. I don't argue with that anymore. I don't try to understand or rationalize their actions. I don't make that my job. I also pause after interactions to notice how I feel. Do I feel settled, or do I feel like I need to recover or wind down? Do I feel respected or diminished? Clarity or confusion? Because that information matters too. When I live from sovereign principles, I don't need to label something as bad or wrong in order to step back from it. I don't need to villainize someone else in order to validate my own choices. I can acknowledge that someone may care in their own way and still recognize that their way of showing up just doesn't work for me. And that is a big shift. Instead of trying to get people to understand me, I focus on understand what's actually happening. Just letting reality speak for itself. And that means I don't entertain relationships where I'm constantly explaining my needs, softening my truth, or waiting for things to stabilize. I don't require people to change in order for me to be okay. I just choose what's aligned. When we stop relating to potential and start relating to presence, something interesting happens within us. We feel less resentful, less confused, less tossed around between hope and disappointment. There's more peace, not because everyone suddenly shows up better, and not because I've cut everybody off. There's more space for peace if our interactions don't add more grief or chaos. And when we're no longer living in negotiation with what's being shown to us. Okay, let's pause for a moment and bring this into the body. If it feels okay, place a hand on your chest and the other somewhere grounding, like on your abdomen, your thigh, or your knee. You don't need to change your breath here. Just notice it. Follow the rhythm and flow of your breath for one cycle. Keeping tuned into your body, not your mind. Ask your body, where have I been negotiating a truth I already know? You might feel a tightening or a heaviness or a subtle pull. Just notice any sensations. If they move and change, no trying to fix, just allowing space for it to speak up. As you exhale, imagine softening around that place where the sensation showed up. Now quietly, without forcing words, let this affirmation in. I do not need to defend my truth. I need to live it. Stay here for one more breath. Friend, if you happen to have closed your eyes to better connect inward, go ahead and blink them back open to return to this space with me. This is what embodiment looks like. Sovereignty doesn't live in the head, it lives in our nervous system. What you may have noticed is that nothing needed to be fixed. Nothing needed to be argued with. Just bringing awareness into the body already started to shift something. And that's because sovereignty doesn't live in the mind. When we stop negotiating with what hurts, our body feels it first. The shoulders soften, the breath moves slower, there's just less buzzing, less bracing. We're no longer scanning every interaction for what might go wrong or how to make yourself more likable or palatable. We start to feel more settled in ourselves, even when things around us are uncertain. And this is where sovereignty differs so much from boundaries. Boundaries often require a lot of mental energy. We have to notice when they've been crossed, decide how to respond, find the right words or the right time. We have to hold the line, sometimes again and again. And over time, that can feel exhausting, especially if we're surrounded by people who benefit from pushing past our boundaries. Sovereign principles change the dynamic entirely. Instead of constantly reacting to what others do, we begin moving from an internal orientation. We don't ask, how do I get them to understand me? We ask instead, is this aligned with who I am and how I live? This question alone simplifies so much. When something isn't aligned, we don't need to debate it into alignment. You'll just naturally adjust your level of engagement and energy. Your time, your energy, your openness, it all starts to match what's actually happening and being offered. This means there's less confrontation. We stop having conversations over and over and stop re explaining ourselves or defending ourselves. Most importantly, to our peace, we stop chasing resolution from people who just don't have the capacity to meet us there. Something subtle but powerful starts to happen. Our system learns that it's safe to trust itself again. Boundaries say, please don't do that. Sovereignty says, this is where I stand. And when we live this way, relationships either settle into a healthier rhythm or they naturally fall out of your field. But there's no explosive drama, no blame, just gentle clarity. And there's a quiet, steady confidence that comes with this. We're no longer bracing for impact or preparing a defense. We are simply living from what's true for ourselves and just letting the rest sort itself out. That's not detachment, though. That's embodiment. There's something else I want to mention here to kind of bring to your awareness, because this is where people sometimes get hesitant. Sovereignty doesn't mean we become hard. It doesn't mean we close our hearts and walk around guarded. It's actually the opposite. When we no longer consistently defend ourselves, we soften. When we trust in ourselves to step away from what hurts, we don't need armor anymore. Empowerment without aggression looks like ease. It looks like not needing to prove your point or needing to win the conversation or not needing to be understood by everyone just to feel okay. The effects of moving with sovereign principles ripples beyond just the moments of interaction. In between, when we are with ourselves, our mind will be calmer because we didn't add any grief or chaos. We will stop rehearsing what we would say if something goes wrong. We stop bracing for impact and we stop carrying the weight of other people's discomfort like it's our job to manage it. Instead, we move through our lives with a kind of steadiness that comes from knowing we'll respond to ourselves with honesty if something isn't right. We don't have to be sharp to be strong, and we don't have to be loud to be clear. Your nervous system begins to trust that you won't abandon yourself anymore, and that trust shows up as a calm mind and ease in the body. Not because everything's perfect, but because you know you can handle what arises without betraying yourself in the process. And that is a very quiet kind of power. I want to offer this as something to sit with, not something to fix or to force. If you've been feeling tired of managing relationships or wondering why doing all the right things still feels heavy, or if you've sensed that there's a deeper shift but it's just out of reach, it may not be that you need stronger boundaries. It may be that you're ready to live from your sovereign principles. Not perfectly or rigidly, just honestly. The ones that say, this is how I treat myself. This is how I allow others to treat me. Or this is what I no longer negotiate. You don't need to announce them or defend them. Simply live them. And over time, your life reorganizes around that truth. More ease, more clarity, and more peace in your body. Not because you tried harder or endured long enough, but because you stopped resisting reality, stopped arguing with what you already knew. I am glad you're here for this conversation. Take one more breath with me before you go. Trust that whatever this stirred, your system knows exactly how to integrate it. Friend, thank you so much for sharing a piece of your day with me. Stay present, stay kind to yourself, and I will see you soon.